Hey guys, Boot here. I'm going to be talking to you today a bit about sound design. But before we dive into the synthesizer and that sort of thing and start having some fun with some sounds, I thought it would be important in this first video just to cover some basic building blocks of sound and what that entails. Okay, so with a sound, a single sort of sound, you're going to have a bunch of different elements. Okay, so you're going to have a pitch. Is it high? Is it low? That sort of thing. But that entails a couple of other different things. Okay, so pitch can either be definite or indefinite. So when we talk about a definite pitch, we're actually talking about is it an E or is it an F or a G, or we can distinctly say that's that particular note. Whereas an indefinite pitch doesn't really have a fundamental that we can say, okay, that's an E or an F. So indefinite pitch, we're more talking about mostly percussion instruments or noise. So they don't really have a distinct fundamental. Although when you're talking about maybe a kick or a snare, they do quite often have a fundamental, like down the bottom of a kick, down the bottom of a snare, and you can quite easily tune those. So yeah, but mostly sort of cymbals and that sort of thing doesn't really have a distinct tonal center. Then you've got amplitude, so that's how loud or how soft a sound is. You can also refer to that as dynamics. And you've also got your tone color. Actually, before I talk about tone color, there's another element I wanted to discuss, and that's just the sound envelope. Okay, because a sound isn't just an impulse; it's something that changes in the time domain, and so that's the sound envelope. So you've got, you've got an attack phase. So you might have like a short attack. You might have a longer sort of gradual build up, and then you've got a decay phase. So it's basically how long does that take for that sound to go back to nothing. And yeah, then tone color. So tone color or timbre is what most of you probably be looking for when you're designing sounds. And what that is an arrangement of harmonics that give that sound its sound. Okay, so we're talking about how a sound sounds when we're talking about timbre. Okay, so when you play, for example, an E on a guitar, you're playing that fundamental E note, but also there's a series of harmonics or other notes above that E when you play that E that give that sound to the guitar. So that's how you can say, okay, well, that's a guitar, or that's an oboe, or that's a flute. They all have this distinct arrangement of harmonics based on their design that give them their tonality. So what I thought I'd do is just go through a few things on a synthesizer and a spectrum analyzer, just so you can see what I'm talking about with that. Okay, so I'm using the Virus here. I love it. It's great. But a similar sort of thing would be like Serum or Massive, that sort of thing. You can sort of get away with those. All right, so if I go with a sine wave here, what we're going to see on this spectrum analyzer is just the one. Oh, hang on. There we go. As you see there, I had it on balance between the two, so we want just the one oscillator. Okay, so what we're getting there is just that single harmonic. Sine waves are never perfect. There are always going to be some little bits of noise and stuff like that, but overall, that's it. Okay, so that's a sine wave. It's just one single tone. Okay. If we change that to a saw, this one in the middle here, okay, we're getting a whole series of harmonics up the top here. Okay, that's what's giving that particular tone color, that arrangement of those harmonics. If I change that to a square wave, okay, we're getting a different arrangement of harmonics. up the top there. And so basically with a square, I mean, that's how people will say, oh, it's a hollow sound with a square wave. And you want to know why? Is because if I switch between these two, there's the square. The cool thing about the virus is I can fade between these. So there's the square. And there's the saw. So as we could see, those harmonics drop out. So that's the first harmonic. Okay, so you got your fundamental there. That's first harmonic, which is an octave above. So if we're playing a G, I think I was playing a G. Yep. So if I'm playing a G, that's going to be G as well. Okay. And then this one is a fifth above that. Okay, so that's going to be a D. And then that sort of series goes up, and it gets a bit more complex as we go along here. I won't go up the entire harmonic series with you, but just so you get an idea. And notice with the square, we've got gaps in those harmonics there. Okay, so that's why when people say a square sort of sounds hollow, well, yeah, it's actually a physical sensation there. So you are losing a lot of different harmonics there. All right. So another cool thing with the virus is these wavetable. Okay, so wavetable it's sort of a bit complex, but it's basically like a single cycle waveform that you can scan, and it basically, when I mean scan, it means it's moving that waveform around, and we're getting different harmonics come out. So basically, I'll give you an example here. Okay, so that's a wavetable. All right, so we got a lot of different sort of modulation options and that sort of thing with that. Okay, so that sort of covers a bit about how sound works. Hopefully you've learnt something from that. I'll go into a bit more depth with some more sound design sort of stuff in the next video. Cheers, see ya.